Well, good morning. Just a little bit past 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning. What is today? Today is May the 14th. So we start this meeting off. If you would all rise and join us all in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, thank you. So we're establishing a quorum, but as some of you might be able to see here, not everyone is present. Director Thomas, he and his wife are on their way to help their granddaughter celebrate her graduation from university. So they left yesterday and will be returning at some point in the near future. And someone else is also going to be leaving the meeting to enjoy a graduation. So Director Scott, what would that be?
Thank you, President Farmer. I will be leaving today at noon. So all the important things will be done by then. What I'm going to be doing is attending my granddaughter's graduation from UC San Marcos down in San Diego. So I will miss you, but important. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Scott. And enjoy the event. All right, this is usually time for the president's report, but maybe I'll do that later since I'm the president. I can probably do that anytime I want to. But we're going to continue moving on. Just curious, do we have any board member communications? No? Okay. You do?
I was going to do agenda review, though. I had a request on agenda review.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, President Farmer. I noticed the applicant who would be I'm recommending for this fire committee is here. So could we take item, I guess it's 5 in regular business, 4E up front? It's going to be a short item, I think, up front of regular business.
Guess you would like to move that to the first item of regular business?
Is that okay with everybody?
Sure, that's
Thank
fine.
you.
Thank you. So let's move on. And we have one request for public comment on items not on the agenda. And just to let anybody know that we'll be making a public comment of this type or of any type for that matter on any of the upcoming agenda items. You have 3 minutes. So Christine Sieber, if you would step up to the microphone. And I want to thank you for your cool t-shirt. If you want to, there you go. Thank you. Good morning. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay, good morning. I'm first here to thank the board and everyone that works for this beautiful seaside community. I appreciate all your time, all your effort. I know how hard you work. And I'm always surprised more people from the community don't attend these meetings. With that said, I just want to say I appreciate you. I want to say I appreciate our fire department who did an amazing job this weekend. It was so fun. We had a blast. We were there a couple of hours. We saw things we never thought we'd see. There were families, and it was just such a wonderful, spirited community event. Some of you know I've been working for the last 4 years for Safer Community, for Cambria, Safety for All in Cambria, and all capitalized for people and animals. I'm a little emotional, sorry. It's come a long way. The petition at the farmers market that we spent months there got this amazing grant for our community in San Simeon. I've become really good friends with John Denozio, and he's just an amazing guy. He took the petition, wrote the grant, and here we are into the study now. He asked me to announce and kind of spread the word that he will be at the farmers market along with the team they hired for this amazing study. Him and Michael Loomis, who is going to be the project is the project manager for this study. They will be there with the team answering questions and also asking questions. They're going to want, you to say how you feel about the community, what would you like to see, how you feel about safety. they have a number of things they're going to talk about and ask you. And then they'll have a meeting on June the 10th here from 5 to 7, I believe. And they will be here to present all about the study in our community. And if anyone's interested in coming, I urge them to do so. And I think that's about it. I thank anybody that's supporting this cause. It's very passionate to me. I started out with the animals after 33 years of retiring as a teacher. And then the more I did, I realized people also are it's a very dangerous situation. And there have been 49 deer killed along the highway since 2018. And if you do the math, that's quite a bit. So that's a very dangerous situation. So by the end of next year, hopefully they will have some really good suggestions for our community to make it safer. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Seaver. I just want to thank you very much, not just for your comment right now, but for all the years that you've spoken up in support of the creatures that live here, the 2- and 4-legged and the ones that fly in the sky. And especially because they were here before us and they do so much to, how could we say it, improve and inspire our lives. So thank you so much. All right, let me just see. One moment, please. Okay, thank you. So not only, by the way, and I should have mentioned this earlier, so not only are we starting with regular business as opposed to usually starting with the consent agenda and then moving on to regular business, but we are going to take item 4E and doing that first. So
President Farmer, we do have one public comment online.
oh, we do. Oh, so, okay. I will ask Ms. Dotson if we do have anybody on Zoom. So, Ms. Dotson, who would that be?
Christine Heinrichs.
All right, Ms. Heinrichs, go right ahead.
Thank you. The pace of ICE arrests nationwide has topped 1,100 per day on average in 2026, far higher than the rate last spring of roughly 600 arrests per day. Despite the publicity, other areas had more ICE arrests than Minnesota. They are assisted by local law enforcement. When local law enforcement hands over people who have been arrested in connection with other crimes, but may or may not have been convicted, that makes it easier for ICE to arrest them. ICE officers have been documented as the aggressors at public demonstrations. Any local law enforcement presence should be to rein in ICE, not assist them. Despite the violent behavior of ICE officers and the record of American citizens being snared in ICE's roundup and the accounts of bad treatment and custody, this board has not yet taken time to discuss this pressing issue. The state has provided language suitable for the board to take a position opposing these violent tactics. Many other California cities and local governments, including SLO County, have put themselves on the record against these outrages. I ask the board again to take up this issue and support Cambrians who oppose ICE so strongly they are demonstrating in the streets. ICE has shifted its focus from major urban centers to smaller cities and towns. Cambria's position will be stronger if the board puts the district on record before ICE agents find their way here. It is more important than ever that conscientious American citizens keep their eyes open for bad actors who will implement this deranged program with its leader's signature cruelty. American Catholic archbishops were moved to speaking out in a 60 Minutes nationally televised interview about ICE. What we're seeing as pastors is an enormous, profound level of human suffering, and that's what motivates us, Cardinal McElroy added. I ask the board to find yourselves moved by that suffering, to take a clear position opposing ICE. I offer again the language adapted from the state resolution to assist you in confronting this difficult moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heinrichs. Do we have anyone else on Zoom, Ms. Dotson?
No.
All right, thank you. By the way, I'll just ask right now, how many people are attending via Zoom?
12.
All right, would you feel comfortable in just mentioning their names?
Sure. 694843, Barbara Bronson Gray, Christine Heinrichs, Crosby and Laura Swartz, Elizabeth Benhausen, Garcia, Jim Dantona, Lisa Maddow, Nesby, Rochelle Benjamin, Tom Gray, and Zebra Radio.
Oh, Tom can be in two places at once. That's a really awesome. Thank you, Tom, for being here. All right. So let's, if we don't mind, we're moving on and we're doing item under regular business 4E. So General Manager McElhaney, if you would introduce this item, please.
Thank you, President Farr. I'll do it quickly and turn it over to Director Gray. Agenda item 4E, discussion and consideration to fill a vacancy on the Fire Protection Committee. There's no direct fiscal impact associated with this. On March 1st, 2026, Mr. Ron DeLuca resigned from the Fire Protection Committee. The vacancy was advertised on the CCSD website, social media platforms, and all CCSD public bulletins. And it's recommended the Board of Directors review the enclosed applications and either appoint the applicant to fill the committee vacancy or direct staff to continue to recruit. And I'll turn it over to Director Gray.
Okay. Thank you, General Manager McElhaney. Yes, I'm pleased to recommend Wendy Terrell as the new member of the Fire Protection Committee. Just to clarify the applications you saw, the other two applications were from January of 2025, so they're still valid, but the applicants either been interviewed or were not reachable. So we're going to go with the fresh face here, and she's, as you can see from the application itself, she has an extensive experience here locally in both emergency medical services and fire, and she's now retired from that, but wants to help out in any way she can. I'll invite her to speak if she wishes. She doesn't have to. I do want to clarify one thing that might be a little bit vague in the application in terms of wording that we had to talk about, and I got a clarification on. She and her husband, of course, have a general contracting business in Cambria for long-standing business. And she mentions in her application, says, we have been working with Cambria Fire as design build contractors throughout our career. That is not that they were working as contractors to the fire department as part of their contracting, which is mainly residential construction and additions and stuff. They work with the fire department so that their clients can comply with with fire codes. And so it's kind of a relationship that she has had with the fire department personnel over the years that's, obviously very good for her knowledge of the fire department, but also is not a potential conflict of interest. And I don't think the firm has any interest in doing work, say, on fire department projects and so forth. So I wanted to clarify that. She's a very qualified person and would be an asset to the committee. And do you wish to come up at all? She's out there in the audience. Okay, she's not going to talk. I'll stop it there.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Director Gray. So before I ask you to, make a motion, I'd like to mention that I have known Wendy and her husband, Wes, for a long, long time, as well as Wes's father. And I know they're really just really good people. And like you said, a fresh face and some enthusiasm and energy, as well as knowledge, will be much appreciated as she joins your committee.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh,
Public
okay.
comment, yes.
Do we have any public comment on this item? Mr. L, would you like to make some public comment? No. Okay. All right. So, Director Gray, would you like to make a motion?
Online comment. Okay, good. Yes, I'll make a motion. I move that the board appoint Wendy Terrell to fill the vacancy on the Fire Protection Committee.
I'll second the motion.
All right, Ms. Dotson, do we have a roll call, please?
Director Gray?
Aye.
Vice President Dean? Aye. Director Scott?
Aye.
President Farmer?
Aye. All right. Congratulations, Ms. Terrell. Look forward to seeing you at the next meeting chaired by Director Gray. All right, let's move back to the regular business agenda item, and that would be item number 4A. And General Manager McElhaney, would you introduce this item, please?
Thank you, President Farmer. Agenda item 4A, discussion and consideration of adoption of resolution 17-2026, adopting water and sewer inflationary rate increases for fiscal year 26-27. As we know, it's not always popular to raise rates, but the proposed water and sewer inflationary rate increases are necessary to provide adequate revenue to the district and the enterprise funds for the annual costs of water and sewer operations. And the district has several infrastructure projects ahead of us that we already know we're not exactly poised to fund at the moment. So with that, the staff report is before you. And if approved by the Board of Directors, the proposed inflationary increase to water and sewer rates would be 3.25% for fiscal year 26-27. And I'll turn it over to the board.
All right, well, let me just say that I don't think any of the board members are always thrilled about raising water and sewer rates. But everything these days is just becoming more expensive. Obviously, we have infrastructure issues as time moves on, and we try to keep the rate increases as reasonable as possible because all of us, and I'm speaking for all of us, we love this community and we serve this community because we do care deeply. But there are times when something like this has to take place. So do we have any, first off, do we have any comments from board members on this item? Yes, Director Gray.
Thank you, President Farmer. Yeah, I just wanted to point out that added that it's not something I like doing either, raising our rates for water and sewer. What we're trying to avoid though with this is what happened between kind of like 20 and 10 years ago when the rates were sort of frozen at a fairly low level, and a series of very sharp rate increases had to be enacted to kind of make up for that. It's to keeping up with inflation will help prevent really bad rate increases in the future. I can't say there won't be rate increases because of our capital needs, but this is sort of a responsible way of keeping up with costs. And I expect we'll be doing this all along, hopefully. Unfortunately, but hopefully.
I don't see any other director that wishes to make a comment. I don't have a public comment slip on this. Does anyone in Zoom land wish to comment on this, Ms. Dodson?
No.
So I guess Director Gray made a statement. I made a comment as well. So would someone like to make a motion to approve this item?
Thank you, President Farmer. I move that we adopt the resolution 17-2026, adopting water and sewer inflationary rate increases for fiscal year 26-27. And I think I'm supposed to say and waive further reading.
That sounds reasonable.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Dodson, would you do a roll call, please?
Vice President Dean,
Aye.
Director Scott,
Aye.
Director Gray,
Aye.
President Farmer.
Aye. All right, let's move on to item 4B. And once again, General Manager McElhaney, would you introduce this item?
I'd be glad to. Thank you, President Farmer. Agenda item 4B, discussion and consideration of adoption of resolution 22-2026 regarding maintaining enterprise fund integrity and establishing staffing allocation controls. There's no immediate fiscal impact on this item. You know, as we know, the district has a number of active powers, and pursuant to those powers, enterprise services, water and wastewater are one of them. And enterprise funds are supported by ratepayer revenues and are legally and financially restricted for those intended purposes. However, general fund services are supported by property taxments, assessments, solid waste franchise fees. And we want to focus and essentially state that enterprise funded employees can engage in some support to the general fund. However, proper tracking, reimbursement, and limited duration safeguards are required in such instances. In our most recent strategic planning workshop, some of those issues were brought up by staff and the public in terms of some of our Swiss Army knives that we have in utilities, like Mr. Green, Mr. Reaper, Mr. Johnson, are used for, several things within the district. And we're trying to just be a little more accountable about those salaried and benefited employees that work under the enterprise fund and where those time and effort is being placed into it. And so we're just putting this mechanism and control in there publicly and hoping to adopt this resolution. There is one clerical mistake in terms of the resolution number. That resolution number should be, Ms. Dodson.
19/2026.
There you go. So changing that to 19/2026, because we have another resolution that has this number later on in the agenda. With that, I'll turn it over to the board for discussion.
All right, thank you. Well, once again, this is another item that has been brought to our attention with some comments from the public as well as obviously from the board and staff. Do any of the board members right now wish to elaborate or clarify on anything on this item? Yes, Director? Oh, okay. I don't see any of the directors wishing to comment at this time. Ms. Dotson, do we have any public comment on Zoom?
No.
Oh. Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve this item?
I move that this board approve or adopt resolution 22/2026 19. Oh, what's it again? 19/2026? Yeah. I'm sorry, 19/2026. Yes. Excuse me. Regarding maintaining enterprise fund integrity and establishing staffing allocation controls, and waive further reading of the resolution.
All right. Thank you, Director Gray. Do we have a second on this?
I'll second it.
All right. I just want to make one comment before we go to a roll call. We are extremely fortunate, we, meaning this district and therefore the entire community, to have such fine employees that serve in water, wastewater, and facilities and resources and so forth. So we're extremely fortunate, like I said, to have folks that are committed to doing the best job possible, and especially during these challenging times of infrastructure needs and that type of thing. So I just want to comment on that. And no matter where they're serving, we're grateful that they are employees of the CCSD. So with that, roll call, please, Ms. Dotson.
Director Gray?
Aye.
Director Scott?
Aye.
Vice President Dean?
Aye, and I
President
would like
Farmer.
to add the rest of the staff that is sitting here to what President Farmer has said.
Didn't I include the staff?
President Farmer.
Aye. And I do want to say that despite what some occasional comments are from the community, we have a great staff. All right, thank you. With regard to item 4C, we have determined at this point in time that a little bit more time to, how can we say, clarify some of the statements and documents in this particular item of 4C, review and discussion of the will serve letter for existing water commitment, so forth. We're going to hold this item off until next month. So moving on to item 4D, General Manager McElhaney, would you introduce this item, please?
Thank you, President Farmer. Correct. 4D. Discussion and consideration of third quarter budget report for fiscal year 25-26. During the third quarter fiscal year 25-26, there was one budget adjustment. That adjustment is included in the budget. The board adopted the CIP list and has been updated to reflect our activities from July 1st, 2025 through March 31st, 2026. With that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Fritz.
Good morning, board. So this is the third quarter report for 25-26, item 4D. And At this point, this is reporting on activity that is about 75% of the fiscal year, so through March 31st, 2026. I would say a few items just to point out is the county has been kind of a little bit different in how they're doing their property tax allocation. So those still haven't necessarily caught up. We got a big check the other day, so that will be represented in the fourth quarter report. And as you know, for the general fund specifically, that is the main way that they are funded. There's been quite a bit of capital outlay expenditures that are planned that are coming out of reserve. So primarily in the water fund as well as the fire department for the general fund. So that contributes to some of the large deficits that you see. And again, those are planned. And so other than that, operationally, everything is going according to plan. And there's no real any big items to point out. The budget adjustment for this quarter was for the fee study that was approved. And so that amount is distributed among the water department, wastewater department, and general fund are all taking a portion of that that budget adjustment that was approved during the third quarter. So I'm going to ask you all if you want to go department through department or how you want me to present this. President Farmer, do you have?
Well, unless the other directors have another thought, why don't you follow the usual procedure that you do if you're comfortable with that?
Okay.
Or do you feel that that will be taking
No, it's not
too much time that is not necessarily what you need to do?
No, I was just asking for your preference. I can go item by item. I think that's typically what I do. So
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, Ms. Fritz. Director Scott would like to make a comment.
Yes, I just wanted to thank you, President Farmer. I would just like to let everyone know that the Finance Committee has gone over this meticulously and made recommendations. Those recommendations have been incorporated into this report that you have in front of you. And we are forwarding it to the board for approval. So we've gone through it page by page.
So I can do some I guess
Highlights. Okay.
the summary. So on page 69 of the agenda, you will see the summary for the general fund. So as I stated, the fiscal activity, it is showing a deficit of approximately 1.6 million. $1 million of that is due to the fire engine purchase that we did get a grant for, so that will be reimbursed, but it won't be reimbursed for a couple years. And then the remainder can be attributed to just not having all of the property taxes in yet and keeping a close eye on that for the end of the year. Page 72, you will see the detail on the fire department. So you can see the revenues on the first part, and then we go down to salary and wages. Supplies and services is on page 73. You will see very shortly next week, the 26-27 budget is going before Finance Committee, and so then it'll be coming to the board. So we're really going through all of these expenditures and looking forward to next year and what that will look like. So we've been spending a lot of time going through these reports recently. And on page 75, and you'll find this for each department, is kind of a summary of the revenue and expenditures, and they're more lumped into categories such as salaries, benefits. And so this is a good way to review it kind of on a summary level instead of going through all the detail if you don't want to do that. So as we can see for the fire department, if you're looking on page 75, we're in a deficit of 1.4 million. So then on page 78 starts facilities and resources. And so we're going down the same process. One thing to point out is you can see that we've recorded that we've gotten the grant from the Highway 1 Tourism Alliance for $60,000 as part of the revenue in there. And so then all of the expenditures are listed, the salaries and benefits. On page 79 is supplies and services. And then on page 80, you can see the capital outlay expenditures, which are the refinishing of the floors, the painting, all of the beautiful things that have happened in this building this year. And so they're showing in a deficit of 122,000 so far this year. And again, we do not have all the property taxes. And then on page 81 is that nice little summary. On page 83, this is Department 16, which used to be for the pros department. This is all of the skate park expenditures at this time, any skate park expenditures that are coming through. And it was for the restroom too. And so that is what you will find in that department. And then on page 87 starts the administration department. So those are all of the expenditures and any revenues that are collected for that department are in there. And then on page 93 is a nice summary for the enterprise funds. So on there, you can see the water, wastewater, the WRF operations, and the WRF capital fund. So that gives you a nice overview and a summary of where we are this year and where they all stand. And as I had stated previously, the water fund has done quite a bit of capital expenditures that were planned, mainly Stewart Street tanks, which is being 100% funded by the district. So we are going to see some deficits in that department because of that. So I'm not going to go through all of those detail, just kind of how I had laid out how it is, and of course I'll take questions, but I'm going to draw your attention to page 120, which brings us to the capital improvement list. And there's a nice little legend that is kind of detailing out how to read the report, and then also gives our ranking and the timeline for how we come up with this list. So if you look at the column, if you go down to page 121, fiscal year expenditures, that's going to tell you how much we've spent so far this year per project. And then if you go over to the activity to date columns, the project to date expenditures will show you how much we've spent in total for all of these projects, because a lot of these projects span fiscal years. And so this is a good way for us to see in total how much we've spent. So I'm going to point out on that page 121, just to help people follow this on this fiscal year, we've spent $22,309 so far, but if you go to the project to date expenditures, we've spent a total of $175,139 on this project. And this is a good example just to show you how, if you look, I think it's the third column, the source of funds. This is a project that has multiple funding sources. So this is how we're kind of detailing out how to explain this project in total. And of course, it spanned multiple fiscal years. So this is a more complex one. So I just wanted to point that out of how this is working. And anything with a B on the side of under the ranking column is projects that are budgeted this fiscal year and that we're working on. So I think with that, I will ask for any questions Oh, I'm sorry. On page 134 is a more detailed look of the SST accounting. It's all in those reports as well, but this is something that I report on every month, just to be very clear about where we are with the SST and how those monies are being spent. And of course, that's the $12.1 million of bond funds that we obtained, 3 years ago now. Interest earnings on those funds, and the expenditure. And then on page 135 is an up-to-date listing of all of our debts and those principal and interest payments and what those balances are as of March 31st. And so with that, I think I will take any questions.
I see that we have we have 3 directors that wish to ask questions. So why don't I start here with Vice President Dean?
Thank you for this very thorough report. I did go through it item by item too, but I just have one question that I probably already know, I just can't remember. In page 78, 79, there's an acronym that I am not familiar with, PPT.
Mhm. So when the district moved their ERP system to their accounting software to Tyler, there was a conversion from MOMS. And so that was an acronym used in MOMS, which is before my time. So I'm going to do some research through those conversion documents to see if I can find what PPT, somebody who has been at the district longer than I might know what that used to stand for. It is used in the Facilities and Resources Department, or I can't really in my mind think of like what it would have stood for. So I do have one employee that was here during that time. So I haven't had a chance to ask her yet if she knows what it means. But off the top of my head, I don't know what that acronym stands for.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Director Gray and then Director Scott.
Thank you, President Farmer. Yeah, I just had a question on a number on the CIP list under the skate park expenditures. I don't know if I heard this right, but it looks like from the document here that we have spent so far 105,000, I believe, and we have 70. I guess in other words, out of the 178,000, we have basically 72,000 left. I heard you say something like 170,000 has been spent.
So if you look at the yellow total line
Yeah.
for that project, so that the 175,000 includes money that the Cambria Community Council has spent.
Okay, so yeah, just sort of clarify for you, just so I can clarify to myself. Our commitment out of reserves is 178,000. We still have about 73,000 left of that. The additional money that came from the community council is added into that total for us, but it's obviously not our reserves.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Director Scott.
Yes,
You.
thank you, President Farmer. I just want to say thank you because, we have the raw data that's there, but the supporting documents, for instance, like debt listing, these were things that the board had asked Ms. Fritz to put in there, and I just really appreciate the fact that we have this, so thank you.
You're welcome. And I just heard from my staff that it stands for the property management. Mhm. And we can, it's our account, it's the chart of accounts. And so it was created that way. And I mean, we can go through and change that if we feel like it's no longer valid, but that would be a project to go through and evaluate the chart of accounts.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Fritz. Thank you, directors. If I could just very briefly here, and this would be page 104. Just want some clarification here on item number 40. Excuse me. WRF capital. Let me just ask you, is there a reason, and maybe I'm missing it here. Okay, so it says here WRF operations and then WRF capital. So could you clarify what those amounts And I see, $1,321,000. But there's also, well, if you could just clarify that amount with regard to, so this is like revenue. So this is what we have been charging the ratepayers for the WRF. Is that correct?
So on page 104, specifically looking at the sales category 40, the 1.3 million is, if you go right above that, it's the current total budget. So that was the budget this year for the WRF operations. So yes, that would be the budgeted amount for what we charge on the utility bills for the WRF. And then if you go over to fiscal activity, and the 893,000 is what we've collected so far through March 31st, 2026 from the utility bills for the WRF operations.
Okay, well, thank you so much for clarifying that. And as I know, just being someone here in the community that serves on the board, and people are occasionally asking me, well, what about the cost of the WRF? So let me just ask you, Ms. Fritz, sometimes these amounts go up and down from year to year with regard to how much the district has to spend on the WRF. Obviously, the paying off the loan remains relatively the same, but other items of cost tend to fluctuate. Can you give us any thoughts on why that would be? And I know this is maybe out of your territory, but you're the one that ultimately has to compile these amounts together. Is there any particular reason that some years we're spending less on the WRF and other years we're spending more?
I mean, I would have to do an analysis to see if that's actually the case. I would say that most of the time the operating expenditures go up slightly based upon salary increases, because that's mainly what's in there, and some maintenance costs. The supplies and services is primarily for WRF is maintenance and utilities. So utilities costs usually go up, based upon inflation. So I see that's what's mostly in there. And of course, the debt service payments remain relatively stable. And where I could see for the capital, where it would go up and down is based upon what projects have been approved, as well as which projects can be completed. As you know, some of these projects can be quite complex. So even though the budget is approved, those funds might not be spent in the year. They can cross fiscal years. And so that's where maybe you might see a spike in capital expenditures, is the item got approved, but it took a little while to spend those funds on whatever those projects would be. On page 108, you can see a detailed listing of the budgeted projects, analytics overhaul, chemical building container, shade cover, those things. But we've spent 46,000 so far, but the budget is 760. So as you can see, we haven't, spent a large sum of what's been budgeted. And so in that area, you'll see fluctuations based upon project flow.
All right, thank you. And since I didn't warn you that I was going to ask you that question, I appreciate you being able to provide a more than adequate answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll follow up, President Farmer. Like Ms. Fritz said, the plant isn't operating currently, but in order to have it ready to operate, you'll see those costs fluctuate. So, the membranes being replaced and being serviced, all those things have to happen each year, and some years are a little more expensive than others. And Mr. Green can probably add more to that, but you will see fluctuations in costs for the WRF, just because we got to keep it maintained, even though it's not operating.
Did you want to add to that, Mr. Green, or are we fine?
Sure, yeah, you'll see some of the spikes in costs. So permitting's gone up. It went from around $32,000 to $40,000 this past year, which we knew the DDW was going to roll out cost increases for permitting. That was a meeting that we went to over a year ago. Also, when we have some of this brine haul off, like we had some brine sit in a Baker tank for a good portion of a year. So while we generated it during last year, it got hauled off during this fiscal year. So you see, of course, brine hauling, we know that concentrate is fairly expensive for the hauling and disposal costs. So you'll see some of those that kind of hit on intermittent years, unfortunately. But yeah, we've really tried to keep the operational expense or the investment in that really low right now while we're not operating.
All right. Well, I want to thank both you and General Manager McElhaney for following up with your comments after Ms. Fritz. Thank you. Not seeing any further comments from board members. Ms. Dawson, I don't have any public comment here in the room. Do we have anybody online that would like to make a comment on the budget?
No.
All right, thank you. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve this item?
Move that the board approve the third quarter budget report for fiscal year 2025-26.
Second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Fritz, if you would do a roll call, please.
Ms. Fritz,
What did I say?
you said Ms. Fritz. Can you take a roll call?
Oh, a little change of pace here. Ms. Fritz, would you do a roll call?
I'd like to test her out here.
My apologies.
Director Gray,
Aye.
Director Scott,
Aye.
Vice President Dean,
Aye.
President Farmer.
Aye. Thank you. And by the way, since Ms. Fritz was in the spotlight there, I don't know if anybody has noticed, and she's probably going to get embarrassed that I'm mentioning this, but Ms. Fritz has done and those of us that have had weight issues know that it's not easy, but Ms. Fritz has done a bang up job in losing weight in the last few months, and she's as attractive as she's ever been. I just want to comment on that, even though that advice, well, President Farmer, don't you think that's going beyond what your role is here? But I just want to comment on that, and thank you, Ms. Fritz. All right. It's my role as president, I have a little bit of flexibility here, so moving on. All right, moving on to item 5, hearings and appeals. So perhaps we can go through items 5A and 5B rather quickly, and then move on to item 5C, which will probably occupy quite a bit of our time by 11 o'clock. So let's start with item 5A.
President Farmer.
Yes.
If you don't mind, we do have the representative for the Urban Water Management Plan to present.
Cool.
Would you be amenable to have 5C first?
All right, sure. So let's go ahead and do that. Thank you.
Okay. Let me get there. President Farmer, you're a tough person to follow. Here we go. Agenda item 5C, public. Gotcha. So we need to do 5B first before we are able to do the resolution for 5C. So are we okay with 5B?
General Manager McElhaney, it's all yours, buddy.
Right. Agenda item 5B, thank you, Mr. Reaper. Public hearing to discuss and consider adoption of resolution 22-2026, adopting the water shortage contingency plan. There's no direct fiscal impact associated with this action. Staff has updated the water shortage contingency plan to reflect the current regulatory requirements and guidance. The 2025 WSCP incorporates revisions since the 2020 plan, consistent with the updates identified by the California Department of Water Resources, DWR, in the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan Guidebook. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Reaper.
Yeah, AGP, I know you had some volume issues earlier with a member of the public that made public comment. And you had to kind of raise the microphone.
Test.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Thank you, General Manager. The CCSD's water shortage contingency plan is, as mentioned, a required document under California Water Code, Section 10632, which requires that a supplier that serves more than 3,000 acre feet per year or has more than 3,000 service connections, which applies to us, to prepare and adopt a standalone water shortage contingency plan as part of its urban water management plan. The idea behind this document is to allow suppliers to plan for a potentially greater than 50% supply shortage. And the document is due for update every 5 years. So our urban water shortage contingency plan underwent a significant revision in 2020. This update really builds on that and all the work that was done with that. Some sections were moved around. That was most of the changes were moving sections around, moving tables around. For example, table 8.1 just says, we're using the standard 6 shortages, but we also wanted to include all the information about what those 6 shortages mean in terms of when we invoke them in our and move through the drought stages. So we included an extra table outlining that. One last thing to mention, the WCP is a flexible document. We are not limited to the demand reduction or supply augmentation measures mentioned. The WCP is designed as the framework, with the actual implementation being by resolution during a declared shortage. And the resolution declaring the shortage can outline additional items without requiring a readoption of the WCP. So with that, myself and Ms. Vidaus are available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Reaper. Any comments from members of the board? Yes, Director Gray and then Vice President Dean.
Thank you, President Farmer, and thank you, Mr. Reaper, for the introduction. I have a question. It's come up, I think, before in my mind, but it's always relevant when I look at the criteria for the shortage levels. There usually are obviously several half dozen criteria in each case. I've always wondered, there is a certain amount of weighting, WEIGHTING going on in your consideration of this. And I don't know if you could share a little bit of your thinking of the utilities department's thinking about which of these is more critical or is more kind of a greater trigger than others. Because you can have, I'm just thinking, I see the gradient as kind of ultimately what you're trying to, keep an eye on, because that's the whole saltwater intrusion trigger or alarm. Whereas rainfall totals may not totally be reflected because of the timing of the rainfall, especially. So I wondered if the public could get a little bit of awareness of what really, tilts the decision as to stages. Among those criteria, what are the more important ones, and what are the ones that are a little more, secondary?
We really consider all of them. I don't know if there's any one that's kind of more important. The grading is certainly one of those. The one tricky thing about that is it's controlled at both ends. So you could have a case where we had a wet winter and we dumped a bunch of water into the perk ponds and bringing the groundwater up there, making the gradient look flatter, even though the levels in the well field are doing just fine. So we kind of take all these into consideration along with what you said. Which is very important. And as the years go on and we learn more about how to manage our aquifers, is the timing and the amount of rainfall that we get is super important. And the timing is probably the most important. We can have a slightly below average year with the rainfall spaced out really nicely. It keeps the stream flow going, the aquifer is full for longer, or we could have what happened in 2021, where we got half of our annual winter rainfall in a single 36-hour long storm.
Mm-hmm.
So even though that looked like an average year, if you look over the whole winter, when you get a rainfall event like that, it just doesn't help us out that much.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I'll answer on that.
If I may, I'll just weigh in too that this is a framework for us, right? And then each one's going to be unique. Every drought never has any past drought been exactly the same as the one before. So to Tristan's point, like you need to we'll take a snapshot and the real time operating and then look at the appropriate staging back. So you can have projections or scenarios, usually is how we look at it, and have concepts kind of laid out, but it really needs to be real time together. Like you will be in a January, February, March, these spring, April, making real-time decisions together. Yeah, when time
I
comes.
think there's some seasonality to it. Obviously, in the February, March, April time of year, we're looking at rainfall. How much did we get? What was the volume in a single storm, or was it spread out? I think you guys will remember last month when we were really concerned, we were already talking about stage 2 drought because at that time we hadn't had any precipitation since February 16th. Obviously, we had that late March or late April rain, even into May, that totally reset our kind of game plan and strategy for the early summer. The next kind of seasonality we really look at, or is really concerned with me because it's part of our permit, is obviously the gradient. We start really looking at that weekly, daily as we get into August and September, especially when there's no rain on the horizon or on the plan for what could be late October or even further out. So those are two kind of seasonality indexes or metrics that we look at.
Well, thank you to all of you for your answers. Thank you.
I just want to comment with regard to the rainfall that the well levels in San Simeon are actually dropping down a little bit there in March, and we got some nice rain in April, and the well levels have leveled out, which is our good fortune to say the least. So, Mr. Reaper, you have any further comments on this item?
Nope.
Okay. I don't see anyone in the public that wishes to make a comment. Ms. Dodson, do we have anyone on Zoom wishing to comment on this item?
No.
Well, this is obviously, water shortage contingency plan, and I just, oh yes, Vice President Dean.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was going to make a motion.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I just want to say this. As we all know, we are extremely fortunate, those of us that have the good fortune to live here in Cambria, that it seems as if no matter what the rainfall is, even in the most difficult of years, somehow the residents here rise to the occasion and we weather the storm, so to speak. And this year looks like, as I said, that the well levels remain adequate enough throughout the year. And I just want to thank the members of the community for doing what they do to address whatever water shortage issues that take place during the course of the year. So thank you. And now, Vice President Dean.
So the R&I committee received a very thorough presentation of this water shortage contingency plan along with the urban water management plan. And it was an excellent presentation. We think spent two and a quarter hours on it. And the R&I committee recommended this go to the board for approval. So I would like to move that we adopt Resolution 22-2026, adopting the water shortage contingency plan, and waive further reading.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Dodson, roll call, please.
Vice President Dean.
Aye.
Director Gray.
Aye.
Director Scott.
Aye.
President Farmer.
Aye, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Reaper, for your presentation. All right, let's move on to item 5C. And it's funny, we said earlier when we were discussing, well, when would we get into item 5C? And we said, oh, around 11 o'clock. So it's 10:59 right now. So at least we hit that number right on the dot. So I was going to hand this off to General Manager McElhaney, but Mr. Reaper has returned to the dais there. So should I just hand it off to Tristan?
I'll just introduce the item quickly and turn it right over to Mr. Reaper.
Okay.
Agenda item 5C, public hearing to discuss and consider adoption of resolution 23-2026, approving the district's 2025 urban water management plan. Mr. Reaper.
Very good. So this effort was the culmination of a number of months worth of work between ourselves and Manaus Water Management. So thank you for hearing this today.
Mr. Reaper, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could you lower the microphone just a tad and see if your volume gets a little better?
Is that better?
I believe it is. Yes, thank you.
Next slide, please. So let's just take a second, give kind of an overview about urban water management plans. You know, why are we adopting this? Why do we adopt this? So they're required by a California Water Code. It was brought about during the drought of 77, 76. Then the first act was then passed in 1983, requiring an urban water management plan that showed that was required to show a balance between the amount that you were expected, the demands, and the amount available you had for supply, and also including during times of drought. So since then, they've expanded quite a bit, and they must be updated every 5 years. And upon adoption, will be submitted to the Department of Water Resources.
Mr. Weaver, I don't mean to interrupt you, but what page are you on right now?
Oh, this is in the presentation. This isn't in the agenda packet.
There's a packet in front of you, President Farmer.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. So ours, like every urban water management plan, has been divided into chapters. I'm going to quickly go over all of them since not all of these chapters are going to be covered in the presentation. This is a very long document, and we just don't have time to go through it, go through everything in it. So we're going to hit the highlights. So chapter 1 is just an overview of the entire document. It includes its organizational structure. It describes the background and purpose, including information on the Planning Act, Urban Water Management Planning Act, that law that requires a new plan every 5 years. And then also each chapter itself includes an overview of just that chapter, kind of written with the non-expert in mind. Chapter 2 is about who we included in the development of our urban water management plan and how they were included, including notification, coordination, and outreach, and the requirements for the preparation and the process used. It also includes the type of year and the units of measure used throughout the urban water management plan. Chapter 3 describes our physical water system, our service area, geographic location, climate, projected population, other factors that might affect water management planning. It discusses potential uncertainties such as the impact of climate change. We'll discuss more on chapter 3 after this overview. Chapter 4 describes and quantifies the CCSD's past, current, and projected water uses through 2050. It also discusses climate change as well, and it also discusses the various water use sectors. Chapter 5 is about water use reporting under SB X7-7 and the urban water use objective. The CCSD is meeting the goals established under these two regulations in combination with the demand management measures outlined in Chapter 9. Chapter 6 describes and quantifies the sources of water available in the CCSD supply portfolio, as well as any actions required to meet anticipated future water demands. And the water supply characterization assesses the CCSD supply during a normal year and includes projections through 2050. Chapter 7 essentially combines chapters 4 and 6 to assess the reliability of the CCSD's water supplies and water balance under normal, single dry year, and multiple dry year hydrologic conditions. Chapter 8 describes the CCSD's water shortage contingency plan, which we just discussed. So I'm not going to go into that here, but the tables from that plan are included in the UWMP. And the WSCP itself is included as an appendix to the UWMP. And Chapter 9 describes the CCSD's demand management measures, and that's both on the utility side as well as on the customer side. Their implementation over the past 5 years, and any planned conservation measures that, to continue to meet our water use targets and water use reduction goals. And then Chapter 10 describes the steps taken to make the draft publicly available, and the steps taken to adopt and submit the UWMP. This chapter also discusses the CCSD's plan to implement the UWMP. So with that overview where we're going through this, let me introduce our consultant who helped us with the preparation and writing of the 2025 UWMP. So next slide, please. Oh, you got it. Madaus Water Management has a long history with the CCSD, as outlined here, helping with the 2015 Urban Water Management Plan, and as well as the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan, and now the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan, among other projects. So Ms. Madaus, if you wanted to talk a little more about your company and the efforts.
Sure. It's been our pleasure to collaborate this time with Tristan and Jim. We've spanned a lot of staff with you at the CCSD and been along with your community for more than a decade. And actually, I've helped for more than 25 years in San Luis Obispo County. So we're very familiar with, your community, your needs, and this is your water story. This time we had a unique collaboration, really owning more of the urban water management plan. With your staff was the lead author, so they owned it mostly and used us in a very cost-effective and useful manner, I feel, for all the other urban water management plans that we've assisted with this time. We are actually touching 59 urban water management plans and water shortage contingent plans across the state. So we do this all over, and you're basically on the order of half our cost to do this together. So, and I feel you've got a great story that you've put together and can understand and meet the water code requirements for this planning document. So I look forward to, and I've appreciated the collaboration here to answer any questions, and have just been in the expert role to kind of guide this process along. So a lot of appreciation, and you should, I guess, really appreciate Tristan and Jim through this process, because they really did own it with myself and my staff. Tush Kretschmann and others all collaborated on this effort together.
So with that, we'll tell the first part of our story, water use story, and that is in chapter 3. We've got on over an outline of what chapter 3 is, but I think the takeaway from chapter 3 is the land use within our CSD service area, which are the main drivers of the types and amounts of water, of the various water uses. For us, residential zoning accounts for 57% of the land in Cambria. It's shown in yellow on the image here. This, combined with open space at just under 30%, makes up the vast majority, 86% of the land in Cambria. The remaining zonings are commercial, public institutional, and agricultural. Just like the 2020 plan, which this plan really drew a lot from, as you'll see as we go through it, we also took into account the current build-out reduction plan and community build-out of 4,650 residential units in the projected population and its associated water use. Next slide, please. So chapter 4 describes and quantifies the past and projected water uses based on what available records we have. So the future water use is based on our past water use and existing water use, the 2025 use, combined with anticipated growth, new regulations, changing climate conditions, and trends in customary water use behavior. So the table here summarizes the total current use and projected use, including recycled water. The table shown here shows the various demands for the customer classifications in 2025. So a couple things to note. One, if you just looked at the total at the bottom, the number's a lot higher than what we're used to seeing. And the reason for that is because we included the non-potable use of the treated secondary wastewater discharged to the perk ponds as a beneficial use, because it is really an urban use that's still part of our water story. And so then we added those together at the bottom to get a total, and that number will be used throughout a lot of the other tables. And so again, that the numbers might look bigger than we might be used to seeing. Next slide, please. So table 4.2 talks about our projected demands. To get a baseline, we took an average of the usages from 2020 through 2025. We chose to do this because we suspect there might have been some billing anomalies during the AMI transition, making our water loss number look higher than we expected. So we wanted to make sure we captured an average rather than just focusing on a single year. So then for the projected water use, we just assumed a 1% growth rate, which was in line with what the 2020 urban water management plan had laid out. And then we also, in combination with the 1% in water use, there was a corresponding 1% increase in the amount of wastewater discharged, which that increased those numbers. Again, keep in mind that this document is intended to plan for the land uses that exist within our service area, land use which is under the jurisdiction of San Luis Obispo County, not our jurisdiction, and also in consultation with the Coastal Commission. Next slide, please. So we're jumping ahead to chapter 6. Chapter 6 describes and quantifies the sources of water available and any constraints on their use. Table 6.8 shown here. It's on page 332 of the agenda packet. Shows the water supplies available to the CSD in 2025 and the quantities that we used by source. Again, the use of the treated wastewater as a intrusion barrier is shown here. The other thing to note is that we used 150 acre foot for the WRF for the volume that we to anticipate we'd use. And we'll talk about why that number was chosen in a moment. And then these values are going to serve as the basis for the projections shown in a future table, table 6-9. Okay, next slide, please. So going back to page 331 of the agenda packet, we have table 6.7. This shows the planned and current and existing water sources, expected supply projects rather. There are two things to note here. One, non-potable use of recycled water within town was included as a potential future use. This was also taken from both the 2008 Water Master Plan and the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan. And then the other thing we did is we made some assumptions about the amount of water that the WRF is able to produce. The theoretical maximum for the plant is 250 acre feet over 6 months. However, that would require the plant to run almost continuously, which is not realistic. So we instead chose 150 acre feet, which is a lower number. It doesn't have to require continuous operation, but still provides a meaningful protection for the aquifer. And then we were also a little bit conservative with the planned implementation year of 2028. So make sure we got all our permits in place. Next slide, please. So here's, oh. Yeah. Next slide, please. And one more. So this one, it's on page 333 of the agenda packet, projects the 2025 actual use shown in table 6.8 out to 2050. It accounts for a 1% annual increase in demand due to potential growth starting in 2030. Again, just as in the 2020 plan, we kind of kicked that number out 5 years. It seemed like a realistic expectation. Again, this is anticipated. There's a lot of things that would have to happen before that we could do that. And it also adds potential recycled water as a source starting in 2035, so 10 years from now. One thing to note is that using recycled water within town will then result in a slight reduction of the amount that would be available for the saline intrusion barrier. Next slide, please. All right, moving on. So now we're in chapter 7, water supply reliability. This is designed to assess the reliability of our supplies, and with a focus on constraints, including water quality, water availability, and climate change. The intent of this chapter is to identify any constraints that could affect the reliability of our supplies or the ability of our to meet demands during a normal year, a single dry year, multiple dry year hydrologic conditions. As part of that supply analysis, this chapter includes a water service reliability risk assessment focused on characterizing each water asset to assess reliability and risk. This chapter also presents a drought reliability assessment to evaluate the CSD supply risks during a severe drought lasting the next 5 years. So then, and this chart kind of summarizes our kind of supply reliability. Next slide, please. So the next ones I'm kind of going to go through a little quicker. This is a supply and demand projection for a normal hydrologic year, projected out to 2050. Again, the amount is higher than we're used to because we're including the recycled water used as the saline intrusion barrier. Then this shows that supply meets demand, and we're choosing to show it this way is because we're use groundwater as our water source. So we're only going to pump out of the ground what we're actually going to put to beneficial use. So this was not intended as a supply reliability or an extensive analysis of, how much can our aquifer support? This is just a question of, are we able to meet our demands? So then next slide, please. So here is a single dry year. Again, projected out to 2050. Again, supply meets demand because we're only going to pump what we need to meet demand. Next slide, please. So here is the multiple dry year. Project out to 2050. Again, the supply meets demand because we're only going to pump what we need. For all these tables, we included a 1% annual growth starting in 2030. All right, next slide, please. So then we're going to skip over chapter 8, because that was the water shortage contingency plan. Move on to chapter 9, the demand management measures. We, as a district, have been implementing conservation measures for decades. I think we were the first in the nation to have the retrofit to build system put in place. And we've water conservation has been a main focus of our district for quite some time. And now we're continuing that with the demand management measures in the urban water management plan. These have been guided by a combination of kind of internal policies as well as external regulations. On the state level, these shifted from just kind of general best management practices, and then came the Water Conservation Act of 2009, or SB X7-7. And then there have been similar water efficiency target bills mandated by Assembly Bill 61668 and Senate Bill 606. And we haven't been able to meet all these efficiency requirements and continue to meet them due to the amount of demand management measures we've implemented and continue to implement. So some of these are required and we must implement them. These include water waste prevention ordinance, metering our water consumption, using conservation pricing, having kind of a public education and outreach component, programs to assess and manage distribution of your loss, which is a long way of saying we look at our system every year and try to figure out where is our water loss occurring, how much. And then we have a water conservation program that is coordinated by our staff. And then we also included a number of additional demand management measures in the plan that are unique to us. I'm not going to go over those at this time, but they're in there. As mentioned in chapter 9 and chapter 5, we also do a significant amount of water use reporting. So the water loss audits, annual electronic report. There's a significant amount of water and water loss and water conservation reporting that we engage in on a yearly basis. And those are kind of ways for the state to hold us accountable for meeting our demand targets. Next slide, please. So then for chapter 10, it was just all about public input and the adoption process. So we sent out letters to the surrounding communities, in this case, the city of San Luis Obispo, or this county of San Luis Obispo, and the San Simeon Community Services District, a minimum of 60 days in advance of today's hearing date, notifying them of our intent to update our urban water management plan. And then on April 13th, staff presented the 2025 draft plan to the R&I committee for feedback from the Resources and Infrastructure Committee, as well as any members of the public who would choose to give comment at that time. And then with a request that they be forwarded to the board for recommendation, or forwarded with a recommendation to the board. This was kind of the first chance for the public to see the plan, provide comment, and then the R&I approved it to go to the board, which is, yeah, we're here today. Then we posted it to the CCC website on April 29th. Noticed this hearing in the newspaper. And then now we're here to take public comment and any input to the plan. And we propose to adopt it. And next slide, please. So with that, we're available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reaper, for that presentation. With regard to questions, first, let me ask any members of the board if they have any questions or comments with regard to Mr. Reaper's relatively thorough presentation. Brief but thorough. Director Scott.
I just want to say thank you. This is a lot. This is a lot. And so I'm sitting here going, okay, how old am I going to be in 2050? This gives me hope. So I just want to say thanks for the full report. We really appreciate it.
Just want to say,
President Dean.
if you want to see the extended version of this presentation, you can watch the recording at R&I, because we spent a lot of time going over this item by item, along with the help of Ms. Madhouse, who is available to answer any questions, and appreciate all the work that has gone into this. I think it's an excellent report. Thank you.
Vice President Dean, if you could just let the public know what particular date that R&I meeting took place, so you can just go to our website and go down to board and committee meetings, and then just go right to that meeting and watch the particular presentation. So when would that have been?
I believe it was April 23rd, wasn't it? Yes. And also you can watch the meeting on YouTube and follow along with the transcript if you want to. So you could read it at the same time as you're watching it. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Gray.
Thank you, President Farmer. And again, I want to second everybody's thanks to you, Tristan, and the staff for putting this together, and Ms. Madhouse too, who's been with us a long time, as she knows. I had a question about an item in these reports and these plans that keeps getting pushed into the future. I wonder how serious the plan is and what difference it would make if we don't do it. I'm talking about the recycling of the wastewater for irrigation. Is there any active planning for that? Because I guess it would improve. There is a pipe down Moonstone Beach Drive, but I don't think much more irrigation would really be needed there. Are we overestimating the amount of water that would be taken for something like that? Because I don't see how many ways we could use it unless you had a major capital project with alternate pipes and so forth.
That number was based on a number from the 2004 recycled water feasibility study, which laid out kind of a backbone through Main Street and through the new community park, and then up the hill past the Cambria Pines Lodge into the middle school and finally terminating up at the grammar school. And I think those were the amounts that they came to in that report that they figured could be beneficially used. Since then, the regulations have kind of shifted. Water reuse has become kind of more of a talked about item, more kind of pressure to put on to reuse as much as you can. So there's been talk of that. I know there are buildings in California that are dual plumbed, where you flushing the toilet with recycled water and using potable water for everything else. So that is a potential future use that potentially could be available to us as well.
But it'd take a major capital investment, though.
It would take a major capital investment.
The alternate piping system, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Gray. Yes, I'd like to ask a couple of questions of you, Mr. Reaper, as well as Ms. Madhouse. And Ms. Madhouse, since I was here when you did the presentation in 2021, and of course you were here even before that, so thank you for returning and being reliable in the information that you put together. So I'd like to ask, I think my main concern, and I think members of the public feel the same way, with regard to, and you have this particular population current and projected in various parts of the report. So you have for the previous year, 2025, a population of 6,038, and you anticipate that remaining relatively the same for the next 5 years. But then following that, there's an anticipation of the population going up like 300 or 400 people from 2035 to 2050, with the possibility of 7,350 people residing full-time in the community of Cambria. So I'm wondering, and I appreciate the fact that it appears that part of what you're considering is that right now, people that own second or third homes here and are using them as, how could we say it, short-term vacation rentals will at some point be moving here full-time. And I think that's what you're anticipating, is that's how the population growth will take place. So let me just clarify, is that correct? Either one of you can answer.
This urban water management plan it needs to account for the possibility of growth, because growth is driven by the land use policies of San Luis Obispo County. And that does not tie us to this. It does not hold us to this, but at least it shows us if these things happen the way we're anticipating, this is what we expect it'll do to our water demands.
Okay, so let me just ask you this. The amount of water that we have available in this community is from the rainfall that we receive. Obviously, in difficult times, it could at some point perhaps be supplemented to some degree by the WRF. But since basically our water availability remains relatively stable, give or take the amount of rainfall, how would we anticipate providing water to the folks as this population increase takes place, as stated in this document?
So I guess you want me to?
Yeah, if you wouldn't
That's
mind.
fine. Go right
Sure.
ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like I'm yeah. So you point out correctly that there is an increase in population that is, tied to people per household estimate that is per the census in your community, right, as a baseline, and taking the county's growth ordinance into that policy exists. You will then, no parcel will be built on, no will serve letter will be issued until you go through your normal land use and CSD review process. So we were, per the water code, to do a projection is to look at what growth policies are in place that could occur. That's the scenario that, is kind of in front of us with the existing, kind of overview of the community. Do we anticipate you may have that much, that many people arrive? I concur with you, and that's where the CSD has been. It's been a static population, right, between the 2020 and the 2025. And do we anticipate that in 2030? We definitely can foresee that scenario. So I think to answer your question, where's the water going to come from? I mean, we'll need to continuously revisit that, and each parcel will be approved, going forward. So this doesn't, to Tristan's point, like prescribe that that's how much population growth you'd have, or parcel, individual growth, or parcels connections be made. So this is just, could you, in the water balance, realistically meet this demand? And so that's what we're trying to represent between the supply and the demand. And it's in the background of the tables. The demographics you're talking about in 3 feed into the water demand estimates in chapter 4. So that's where you're showing, and it was page 333 in those tables, basically the table 4.2 gives you the future forecast. And that's why bringing, supplies online like WRF, is really important, in community and reliability. And then you'll have to make an assessment with each proposal that comes through, whether you'll serve.
So with regard to land use, I think you just mentioned that, and that's kind of up to the county. And so there's a projected maybe 1% growth upcoming. Yet the Coastal Commission, stated a number of years ago that our population increase couldn't take place because of the availability or lack of availability of water. So how did the Coastal Commission and the county affect growth in the community?
President Farmer, I can jump in real quick. And
by the way, am I off base here in presenting these questions?
no, President Farmer, I think the questions that you have are the same questions that community members have when they're concerned about our water supply.
Right.
And so this urban water management plan, based upon state guidance and local guidance, is a scenario-based plan that if something like this happens, these are what the projections are going to look like. And as you know, we're under a moratorium that the board would have to lift, and the requirements for lifting that moratorium for any projected growth would for us to have augmented our water supply, obtain a new water supply, and then the board would have to make that decision on whether or not that moratorium can be lifted. From there, it would be the district, if that was to occur, issue will serves to then go to the county, and then the county will determine whether or not we have the appropriate water supply. So I believe this is a forecasting and scenario-based tool that if all those things were to happen, this is what it's going to look like for the district. But in no way, as our presenter described, is this prescribing us or committing us to do any of those things. It is a forecasting tool to say this is what it would look like if there was 1% growth. And as you know, the growth rate for Los Osos is only 0.4. So this is probably an overestimation. If we were to lift the moratorium and the county would to allow growth, I think 1% would be a lofty number. But in no way is this committing the district to growth or saying we're looking for growth. Right now, we obviously know we have water supply issues. We need to permit the WRF for existing users only, to support our existing users and to support our water portfolio, and then continue to look, as the board has directed staff, for additional water sources for this to ever occur in terms of growth. So I don't want to conflate this plan and its projections and possibilities and scenarios with where the district is going, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I want to reiterate, this is a planning document, and that's what we're utilizing this for, is basis of strategy and trajectory into the future. So this is just a planning document again.
General Manager McElhaney, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Appreciate what you just said to clarify my concerns and the concerns of so many people in the community. Yes, so Director Gray and then Director Scott.
Yeah, thank you, President Palmer. Yeah, I wanted to add something about that because as a planning, this is not a plan for a water, development of our water resources or anything. It's a plan for contingencies and to see what our situation will be like in future years. And the key issue, of course, is do we have enough water to meet demand? That's what this whole plan is about. And if you're going to conservatively and responsibly plan, you look for the scenario of all the possible scenarios, of all the reasonably possible scenarios that would give you the maximum demand that you have to meet. And, maybe the Coastal Commission and the county have sent different signals, but if the county has a 1% annual growth target, a growth limit, or we want to call it, and if the that becomes the pattern. It's only one possible scenario, and of course, as General Manager McElhaney said, we'd have to take a number of steps to have it happen. It's the smart thing to do is to plan for it, because it'd be much worse to underestimate demand and then 20 years later be out of water. So and this has been the previous plans have done the same thing. This is just responsible planning.
Oh, even though your light's still on. Okay, thank you. Director Scott.
Great. Thank you, President Farmer. And I just want to compliment you on what you said, because I never thought about the way for our population to increase would be for people who have vacation homes here to actually move here. And that may or may not require more water. But that's what happened with us. We had a vacation home here and we loved it here. And so we decided to move here full time. But your scenario, by saying those kind of things, that would not require any extra will serve letters. So that would be a way to where our population itself would increase, but there wouldn't increase in more water meters or anything like that. So thank you for bringing that to light.
Vice President Dean.
Thank you, President Farmer. And with what Director Scott said, several homes around me have had either families move into homes where there was only one person, or, vacation rentals that became full-time during COVID. So you can see that our population has grown since the last census was done. So yes, that is a way that the population is growing, and more water use is needed as people move in full-time.
Right. Thank you, directors, for your comments. It will be interesting to see how the population growth progresses in our community. I mean, one of the challenges that we face right now are the large number of short-term vacation rentals that exist in this community, and therefore, unfortunately, the decreasing number of long-term affordable vacation rentals, affordable long-term rentals. And that's a challenge that the community faces at this time. And that also affects the population as well, because a number of people, let me just say this, folks that have lived in long-term affordable rentals have had to move because either their rent increased and they had to move to another community, or where they were living, the landlord decided to make it a vacation rental to make more money. So I just want to point that out as another dynamic that we face in our community. Did you have anything more, Mr. Reaper, do you have anything more here? I think what I might do, since we have a couple of public requests here to speak on this item, do you have anything more to state right now?
No, not at this time.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. All right. So first we have two folks that wish to speak, and then I'll ask Ms. Dotson afterward if anyone wishes to speak via Zoom out there in the community.
You
So
open
first,
the hearing? Yeah, open the hearing. Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry.
Where's
Ms.
your step
Maddox,
where
did
you
you?
open the hearing? Usually we take public comment as part of the hearing part. Are you following that process, or can you just want to make sure your steps are what you intend?
Mr. Carmel's up.
I think that's what he's doing.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear it open.
All right. So am I in order here to allow two people to make public comment at this time?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. All right. Dennis Duchek.
I'd like to say thank you for the staff's efforts, and it's really quite an amazing document, and the consultant support was very good. I'd like to just quickly draw your attention to one of the figures in the document, figure 4-1, CCSD historical water use in acre feet per year. And I want to thank all of the residents of Cambria for doing an amazing job. And this is what's important that I want to point out about this figure. 5 years ago, we thought, oh, everybody's conserving because we had this drought and it's just going to go right back to the way it was, right? A lot of folks said that. Look at this graph. not only did it not go back to what it was, and there was an initial rebound. Everybody had killed their lawns and had to do all kinds of things that and so there was a rebound for a couple of years, and then it came back, and then look, it's dropped again. Despite the increase in population, there's only been a very, very tiny uptick over the last 3 years. And so I think it's important to note that we're talking about, in the 500 acre feet versus the 700 acre feet that historically, year after year after year, was CCSD's demand for water. So when we talk about growth in water demand, I want to make sure that we take the long-term view, that we look at what has happened in the past, how things were, new regulations, changes in water use, people's use patterns, and that's what we're seeing in this table. And I think it's important as a background when we say water increase in water use, we're talking about 500 and something increasing to 500 and something versus 700 and something increasing to 700 and something acre feet per year. So again, thank you very much. Great work on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duchek. And our second speaker, presenter from the public, is Michael Broadhurst.
Good morning, folks. My wife Carol and I moved into Cambria a year ago. Before that, we ran Dragon Spring Farm east of town for about 25 years. And I used a lot of water out of Santa Rosa Creek. So I'm pretty familiar with water in the area and in the town. And the gentleman who gave the presentation, very good presentation, my compliments. He said several times that they only pump what they need. And that's something that I have a feeling that the residents in Cambria may not be all that familiar with. I had two wells in Santa Rosa Creek underflow. And there was never a year in all those 25 years that the wells did not produce all the water I needed to irrigate my crops and for our house and everything. So there's plenty of water down there, and we don't need to be too frightened by the possibility of running out water. And that's pretty much my public comment. So thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you for, I guess, those encouraging words, right? Thank you. Ms. Dodson, do we have anyone out there in Zoom land that wishes to speak on this item?
Yes, Crosby and Laura Swartz.
All right, Crosby or Laura Swartz, welcome.
Good morning, President Farmer and directors and members of staff. This is Crosby. Laura. And Laura's going to make a comment after my comment. The draft 2025 Urban Water Management Plan is an impressive and well-written document. However, it contains a number of misleading and unproven statements about the ability of the water reclamation facility to augment Cambria's water supply. For example, in section 6.2, water supply characterization, which is page 48 of the document, the draft document states that WRF can continuously supply a, quote, product water reinjection rate of 400 gallons per minute, unquote. This continuous pumping rate is approximately double what is actually available to enhance the water supply. The ability of the WRF to augment the water supply is limited by the availability of treated wastewater in the percolation pond. Figure 2 of the August 22nd, 2024 Todd Groundwater Memorandum illustrates the range of 9P7 pumping rates, which is 200 to 300 gallons per minute, that are most effective. The Todd Groundwater Memorandum can be viewed on page 214 of the in-stream flow study, which is on the website. We recommend dry season test operation of the WRF at well 9P7 pumping rates of 200 gallons per minute, 400 gallons per minute, and 600 gallons per minute to verify the beneficial effect of continuous WRF operation on the district water supply. The resulting well SS1, SS2, and SS3 well level graphs over a period of time will reveal the optimum 9P7 pumping rate for water supply enhancement. The graph with the most gradual water level drop over the test duration is the most effective pumping rate. In section 6.2.11, summary of existing and planned sources of water, which is page 60 of the document, the draft document states that, quote, a WRF annual supply of 150 acre-feet provides enough to cover any shortfall between demand and available supplies, even during a multi-year drought, unquote. As pointed out in the injection rate comments above, there is no proof that the WRF can supply 150 acre-feet during the dry season. The draft document also does not specify the dry season length used to support the, quote, cover any shortfall, unquote, claim, and it does not specify the number of existing and new water connections used in their calculations. My recommendation is to add a disclaimer to the WRF-related sections of the Urban Water Management Plan, stating that because the conditions of approval for the WRF permit have not been finalized, and because the most effective pumping rates have not been verified by testing, the conclusions of the Urban Water Management Plan about the adequacy of the district water supply to support existing and future water connections cannot be relied upon to inform district decisions. Thank you for your consideration of my comments. I am available to answer any questions. And Laura has a comment as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Swartz. Before Laura makes a comment, did anybody, excuse me, let me turn this off. Would anyone wish to comment on what Crosby has stated here? No, okay. Well, all right then. Laura, go right ahead.
Thank you, President Farmer. Yeah, mine's just a couple of simple questions. First of all, it's been highly advertised even on TV that our tourism rate is expanding in the whole county. Has that been taken into consideration for our amount of water projected, what we need? And that's, like I said, it's been highly publicized on TV that there are more and more tourists, and of course they use more and more water. The other thing that Director Gray brought up and about the purple pipe and then using recycled water, that was an excellent question, because okay, now if we do spend large amounts of money and get the recycled water project going in the years to come, okay, now we're double using the water because the water that you're going to be recycling was what we'd be injecting or, supplying to the WRF. So you can't use that water twice. Either you have recycled water in the purple pipe or that water goes to making the WRF operational in a drought. So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Swartz. Yes, Ms. Dotson, anybody on Zoom land?
No.
Oh, thank you. All right. So, board members, do you have any further comments on this particular document, on the presentation that we've received? Well, then I guess I will ask. Well, I'll just speak for the entire board. We want to thank Ms. Madhouse for once again being here every 5 years to bring us up to date. Mr. Reaper for the fine work that he has done in conjunction with working with her and other members of your staff. And I want to thank the board and the people that made public comment for being attentive to this document and the needs of our community with regard to water and population. And would anyone like to I'll close. See, now both of the people, both of the directors of the other gender that are on each side of me are prompting me to, let's close the public hearing, Harry. All right, well, thank you, ladies, for at least one of us knowing what I'm doing here, right? And so let's, if we have a motion to approve this item, please.
I move that we adopt Resolution 23-2026 approving the district's 2025 Urban Water Management Plan and waive further reading.
I second.
Ms. Dotson, we have a motion and a second, and if you would do a roll call, please.
Vice President Dean.
Aye.
Director Gray.
Aye.
Director Scott.
Aye.
President Farmer.
Aye. Well, it's 10 to 12, and we've done, hold on just a moment, please. So we've finished regular business. Pardon me, my apologies. Thank you, former President Dean. So we have about 10 minutes before we go to lunch, and and Director Scott has to leave the premises. So let's move to item 5A and General Manager McElhaney.
Thank you, President Farmer. Agenda item 5A, public hearing to discuss and consider resolution 18-2026, confirming the itemized report of water and wastewater standby or availability charges for collection on the county tax rolls. Collection of these water and wastewater standby or availability charges through the county tax rolls will ensure that those charges are collected by the CCSD in the most cost-efficient manner as permitted by state law. The staff report is before you, and I'll turn it over to the board.
All right, thank you so much. So board members, anyone have any comments on this particular item? Yes, Vice President Dean.
Yes, President Farmer, I believe we do this every year.
Yes, we do. And? Oh, in other words, what you're saying is we approve this every year. I think that's what you're saying, right? Okay. All right. Well, thank you. So I've been advised by the current vice president that I need to open this public hearing. So does any member of the public wish to make a comment on this item here in the room or out there in the listening audience?
No.
Thank you. Okay. Would anyone wish to make a motion to approve this item? Okay, I need to close the public hearing first. By the way, just to let you know, I will only be here until November, and then Ms. Dean will become president, and I probably will be coaching her, but just thought I'd let you know. All right, so is someone making a motion to approve this item? Yes, Director Gray.
Yeah, I move that the board adopt resolution 18-2026, confirming the itemized report of water and wastewater standby or availability charges for collection on the county tax rolls and waive any further reading.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Dotson, roll call, please.
Director Gray.
Aye.
Director Scott.
Aye.
Vice President Dean.
Aye.
President Farmer.
Aye. So I want to thank everybody for being here and being attentive to what we've been discussing the past couple of hours and being patient with my weird sense of humor. So I think what we'll do now, it's getting close to 12 noon, and unless I'm advised by the other three members of the board or the general manager, I guess we'll take a lunch break, and let's return, if you don't mind, let's return at 12:45. Everybody okay with that? All right, thank you so much. And thank you all in the audience here for being present, and enjoy the rest of this lovely day. All right, thank you, AGP, for being here and recording this meeting. And it's 12:46, so we're returning from lunch, and I hope wherever you are out there in the audience, you're enjoying this day. And if you're anybody that's tuning in, by the way, on SlowSpan and AGP, and you're watching this meeting at whatever time of day or night, I hope you're doing well. So let's get back to the agenda. And interestingly, we did things in reverse order today. So not only did we do things in reverse order, so we've already done regular business and hearings and appeals, we're now going to consent agenda, which is usually in the beginning. Not only that, for anybody that might just be tuning in, you will notice that the group of board members is kind of lopsided here. So we have two members of the board who are on their way to attend graduation of either a daughter or a granddaughter or grandson. So that's quite the treat for them. So let's move on to item 6 and the consent agenda. And let's go with 6A and the expenditure report. Well, let me put it this way. Are there any of the items in the consent agenda that one of the board members would like to pull or staff might like to focus on? No? Okay. Anybody have any comments on the expenditure report? Any questions? None. Okay. Well, I just want to ask maybe about 4 or 5 of them items on the expenditure report. And this is mainly for clarification. I know some folks out there, they look and they see, well, these large items with regard to cost. And sometimes there's just a brief explanation of what has taken place. So if General Manager McElhaney doesn't mind, or Ms. Fritz. So on page 838, B&T service station. So quite a bit of $63,000 work done at the fire station. So if we could just have an explanation of that, please.
Thank you, President Farmer. So we are rehabilitating both of our fuel tanks at the fire station and at rodeo grounds. And so staff over the last year have strategized on how we were going to basically repair, replace, and maintain these tanks. And we landed on the most economic was to rehab them and then add a new computer tracking system that will track all the fuel usage per individual and per truck, and will give us better fuel accounting. And so that's what we have budgeted for, and that's what you see before you.
Yeah, and it is an approved CIP budget for that piece as well.
All right, thank you for that clarification. So with regard to also on the same page, Bill Gaines Audio, Veterans Hall upgrades, I just want to make this comment. I've known Bill Gaines for over 30 years. He's one of the most highly regarded people in this profession in the county. And I think we were really fortunate to have him doing this work. So if someone could just, General Manager McElhaney, if you could just kind of give us an update on this.
Yes, so we are, thank you, President Farmer, we are upgrading our sound system, our mixer, speakers, and we're going to have some upgrades on the dais for the board members, which would be a second iPad in which you can log into Zoom and have that separate from your iPad that has your agenda. We were able to get those funds from the county, PEG funds. We were able to get $39,000. We had already budgeted $50,000 for these upgrades, but we're able to get that grant. So I think the overall cost is going to be in the $44,000 range. We'll take a very small fraction of that $50,000 that was budgeted, and we hope to have that complete here within the next month.
Well, our good fortune to have that grant from the county, so we want to thank the county. We don't always do that, so we'll do that this time. A couple of items relating to the WRF and biological studies. So first we have Cindy Cleveland, $3,900 for this interesting item here, biological survey reporting for birds. So could we have an explanation for that, please?
Mr. Green can follow up, but I believe that survey was for some of the road improvements that need to happen at the WRF as a part of the coastal development permit. And I'm assuming she was looking for birds and nesting season and some of those, I believe it was oaks we had to take down? Or not? Oh, that was Kevin Merck.
This is just AMP monitoring and the night and day and night survey for red-legged frog and other aquatic environment and all the flora and fauna that is in the San Simeon right there. That's tied to our WRF permit. So this is just baseline monitoring continued.
Okay, so also then on page 844, with regard to Mr. Merck, who you just mentioned, $12,600 for environmental. I can't read my own printing here. So what is it that Mr. Merck was doing for this?
That middle line item for about $7,500, that is for the environmental background on the driveway project. So part of the recommended or the conditions of approval for our WRF is we have to make that class 1A or A1 road approach to the WRF driveway there. And that is the monitoring in and around that area adjacent to and immediately on that entrance into there. So again, that's just biological monitoring for those road improvements.
I would imagine that most people who are, excuse me, attending this meeting, other than those of us here, on the right here, staff and board members that have never driven this road, it can be a bit problematic in many ways. So upgrading this road will definitely be an improvement, especially for staff that drive out there every day.
It will indeed. It'll probably be, if and when we do make those improvements to the road, it'll probably be the nicest piece on San Simeon Creek Road right there. So, yes.
All right. All right. So a couple of more items. And I happen to have the good fortune with regard to what I'm going to bring up now, to be able to talk with the Facilities and Resources Supervisor, David Aguirre, yesterday. And he explained to me, because I brought up Mercado, $3,500 to weed the dog park. I said, well, that seems like a lot of money. But when he explained to me everything that they did a lot of things by hand, and how hard they worked, that seemed pretty impressive. So maybe either one of you could maybe just give us some detail as to why it was $3,500. Anybody have anything to say about that? I know David isn't here right now, so.
The only thing I can comment on, President Farmer, is it was a crew of 8 people that had to clear a significant amount of work and a lot of debris and have that hauled off. And so a crew that large to get it done, and talking to David, it hadn't been done in quite a while.
Right.
So that's the reflection of the cost.
Yeah, I think he told me not only what you just said, eight folks, but they were there for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
So they did quite a bit of work. And then finally, and I think this came up earlier, speeds, with regard to the brine waste, brine water. I think you brought that up earlier, Mr. Green. The annual testing, the WRF, so that's like $4,600. So a brief explanation of that, please.
sorry, I apologize. The $4,600 is for 2 trips of brine concentrate hauling. We talked about how we had that 1 year plus old concentrate in storage there that we did not use for the pilot because there were some cleaning chemicals and some other things in there that weren't really appropriate for a pilot test. So what you're seeing there is those 2 final haul offs, basically evacuating that Baker tank that held that residual or that concentrate there for a pretty long time.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Certainly.
So considering that no one else has any comments on the expenditure report or any of the other items on the consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Oh, public comment. Yes, pardon me.
No.
No, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Dodson, for me not even calling on you and you knowing what you needed to do. So thank you. All right. So a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
I so move.
I'll second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second and an abbreviated roll call, please, Ms. Dodson.
Director Gray,
Aye.
Vice President Dean,
Aye.
President Farmer.
Aye. Thank you. All right, moving on now to public safety. I think we have a printed sheriff's report in the in our agenda packet. Is Mr. Januso available from the Highway Patrol?
He's not,
Okay.
and we do not have a CHP report either. But if you
Oh.
guys have any questions, you can send them my way and I can forward them on.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I wouldn't, considering it's kind of an awkward time of the day, I'm not surprised that he's not here. But I am surprised that Chief Berkey isn't here with his fire chief's report. There's an excellent, excellent number of pages that he's providing. But I'm sure he has something else important that he needs to do. General Manager McElhaney, did you want to follow up on this?
Sure, I can do that. President Farmer, so because of the rearrangement of the agenda, he already had an appointment to get one of his vehicles serviced, so he wasn't able to attend. And I don't believe he's on Zoom. He is on Zoom. All right, I'll turn it over to the chief.
All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I missed the beginning of this. Are we doing my fire chief's report at this time?
Affirmative.
This is the moment we're doing the fire chief's report?
Yes.
Thank you. Give me 1 second to pull that up. I apologize for not having that prepared.
Not to worry. Everything's fine.
Chief, do you want me to just cover you? Well, for the sake of time, I'll just jump into it for the chief, and then he can clarify anything.
And it sounds like we might have lost him, actually.
Could be. So they've been doing a lot of training. They've been doing some wildland firefighting operations and tactics as we approach fire season. There's annual fit tests and pack tests and training you have to do each year before wildland season, fire season. They've been training EMS training, so I was with them and we trained on advanced cardiac life support and pediatric life support a couple weeks ago. And again, they've been doing hose lay evolutions and deployment drills. We had 2 very successful events on April 18th and May 9th. April 18th was our Emergency Preparedness Day, where Mr. Mike Kataley and Jack Reese came and presented along with the chief. We had a very solid turnout for both sessions. I think, almost 200 people in one day. We followed that up on the May 9th of Cambria Fire Department open house, which was fantastic. Several allied agencies were there and had booths set up. Fire department did an excellent job doing station tours. They did a auto extrication drill, which they used the jaws of life and spreaders, and basically took a car apart and extracted a patient. And the healthcare district was there and simulated the transport of the patient, and the public loved that. And so that was a great event all the way around on both the 18th and the 9th. And then from here, just some of the attentions in his report is about the fire hazard fuel reduction program, which through the consent agenda, you just approved the contractor, which is Mr. Tim Radecki. He was the only bidder for that fire hazard fuel reduction program. He is a local Cambrian. He did work for us on behalf of the Fire Safe Council doing our CCSD owned parcels. He did a phenomenal job, and now he'll be doing that piece again this year and our fire hazard fuel reduction program. So we're happy to be working with them. And the rest of the attachments are basically the notice to destroy weeds and some of our health and safety codes regarding our fire department. And with that, I'm open to any questions. And if the chief is still on, I'm sure he is too.
Yeah.
All right. Chief Berkey is still here.
Yeah, thank you for doing that, Matt. I appreciate it. Sorry, I'm driving at the moment, so it's difficult for me to grab the report in such short notice. So thank you for covering me on that. Just as General Manager McElhaney said, I'm open for any questions.
Vice President Dean.
Thank you, President Farmer. I just wanted to say how fantastic I thought the May 9th open house was. There was someone from every agency imaginable there with all kinds of information. The inside of the firehouse looks fantastic. I could see a lot of work has been done in the hallway and in the firefighters' room and all of that. And you had a really good crowd cheering you on for tearing that car apart. And I think the highlight was taking the whole top of the car off. Anyway, good job on both that and the Emergency Preparedness Day. They were both wonderful, and thank you.
Yes, it was definitely an excellent event, especially as Vice President Dean mentioned, or actually the General Manager mentioned, all the folks in the various agencies here in the county just were there with folks that were very knowledgeable and grateful to be able to interact with us. So any further comments on the fire chief's report? Well, Chief, thank you so much for being here, and good luck with your vehicle.
Thank you so much. I apologize I wasn't able to be there in person.
It's not a problem. Thank you. All right, let's move on to item 8. Item 8A, the General Manager's report. Mr. McElhaney.
Thank you, President Farmer. For my General Manager's report, first item of discussion would be the water reclamation facility and the pursuit of the coastal development permit. We've been in a significant amount of discussions, not only with the county, but with the Coastal Commission. And the new senior environmental scientist, Dr. Holly Hall, came out for a visit, as you are aware, because both President Farmer and Vice President Dean attended that along with staff. And we gave her a tour of the facility and answered a lot of some of the questions. And she's looking at the project through a new lens, I would say, compared to past staffers. And that was refreshing. We had some really good dialogue about some of the things that can be done in terms of restoration and mitigation. We had conversations about the pond and the pond liner and the ability to potentially keep that with some of the other restoration measures. We had good conversations about how I think both parties and sides believe that this does need to be permitted. And she understands that this is almost our sole water source for the community of Cambria, and that the WRF is a important resiliency tool to protect that seawater intrusion and that mounding effect. And so we aligned on a lot of different goals and topics that we haven't in the past with the Coastal Commission. So I'm proud to say that we're making progress there. There's some additional questions that she had that staff is working on to get her some more information. And our biologist, Kevin Merck, was out there, and those, two biologists and engaging each other and talking about the different issues that we've faced out there in terms of the permitting process. But all in all, it was a very productive meeting, as you know, and we're looking forward to getting before the Board of Supervisors on June 16th for the appeal hearing, moving past that, and eventually working with the Coastal Commission when that goes to appeal, as we know it will, to the Coastal Commission. And I think we're ahead of schedule in terms of addressing some of their concerns. I'll be here on May 28th. Did you have anything, Jim? Sorry. Nope, good. Okay. I'll be here on May 28th for the Meet the GM Day from 8:30 to 7. Our offices will be closed on May 25th in observance of Memorial Day. Mr. Green, myself, Mr. Johnson, and Mr. Cody Meeks attended the California Rural Water Association Expo and Exhibitor Conference, April 27th through May 3rd, focusing on regulatory compliance, water system operations, industry challenges in general. Sessions included updates on PFAS, best practices for tank maintenance and well maintenance, funding, resiliency, funding strategies, grants. I mean, you name it. And so it was an excellent conference, especially for myself with a fire background, which gets brought up a lot. I've been trying to attend more water-based conferences. I'm almost finished with 2 associate's degrees in water and wastewater. I will say that for the naysayers out there. And then we also have some employment opportunities coming up with some potential movement when it comes to management staff being promoted, and that'll come before you in June, July-ish. But we're looking for a potential opening for an administrative technician. We recently received a resignation from one of our fire captains who's moving on to PG&E after 20 years in the fire service. So he's having a little bit of a career change. So we've got a recruitment that will be coming up for fire captain, potentially a firefighter position or a safer firefighter position, because when one promotes, another one kind of backfills there. So there's going to be some recruitments coming up there. We're working on the Santa Rosa SR4 road and sewer improvement project. So that bid closed or closes tomorrow at 2 p.m., the request for proposal. And so we'll have some of those bids in for that project. And then we have sent out the notice inviting bids for the skate park project through Demand Star. And so we have a pre-bid meeting coming up on the 19th, correct? 19th at 9:30 at the site, and that's where you'll see a lot of the contractors show up for that mandatory pre-bid meeting. Once that meeting is over, I anticipate we'll start to see an influx of those bids. To add some more clarification on, who will have access to those bids on June 8th, you'll be able to see the bids submitted on Demand Star on June 8th. However, that's not the selection process yet. From there, it's going to go to our consultant down south, and then they're going to review those bids and determine which is the lowest, most responsible bidder. So while you're going to see several bids on there, that does not guarantee that the lowest bid would be the one being selected. They'll still have to be evaluated. And we anticipate that being done after June 8th and then brought before the board on June 25th for that special meeting that we've discussed. Other than that, you'll see some of the public records requests, and I'm open to any questions.
Any questions for members of the board? You just mentioned the pre-bid meeting on May 19th. Was that May 19th? That's at the skate park itself.
Correct.
And so we're anticipating folks that will likely be bidding on the skate park project itself to be there?
Correct. And it's actually could be a disqualifier if you don't attend as a contractor.
Okay. Is the public able to attend, or is this basically just for the bidders?
I would say that it's outside and it's in a public area, so we can't really close anybody out. However, order would have to be maintained at the meeting, and this would be merely a discussion between staff and those bidding. And so we couldn't have any disruptions, so to speak.
Right. I just wanted to clarify all of that. And just so remind me of the time again.
The 19th at 9:30. And again, it is a mandatory pre-bid meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, General Manager McElhaney. I see that Mr. Geary is not here.
I have his report if you'd like me to continue.
All right, thank you so much. Go right ahead.
Okay. So as we discussed, there was an extensive work done regarding the dog park. That crew consisted of 8 employees, along with our F&R crew, hauling out 2 dump trailer loads of weeds essentially, and that was approximately 16 yards. Our team then sprayed around some of those edges to deal with some of the smaller growth that was still present. And that was with vinegar and Epsom salt and dish soap. So environmentally friendly. They've also removed some old chippings from the rodeo grounds that were used for the dog park and trails on the East Ranch due to rot and potentially becoming a fire hazard. They're also removing some dead and dying trees on CCSD properties that have fallen in the recent weeks and become fire hazards, and they're trying to do that before our deadline in terms of weed abatement. They're repairing a down tractor with a damaged flail mower, and they're working through some of those pieces in terms of getting that back up and running. They're working with the Fire Safe Council and had some crews out on the East Ranch removing French broom. The West Ranch work will hopefully be done by tomorrow sometime. The property across the street from the Vets Hall, which I'm assuming he's referring to the skate park area, has been cut and staged for removal. Spraying on some of the invasive species on the Fiscalini Ranch is going well with Williams Pest Control, and they hope to have that work completed by the end of the month. They've continued to clear out weeds around trail signs and kiosks in preparation for the flailing that's going to occur with our fire breaks. The crosstown trail has been cleaned up with weed whacking and flailing of the weeds and tree branch removal. They've also been working on the Santa Rosa Trail from the wastewater plant up to the pump station. They had a walkthrough with myself and a contractor into our kitchen with the Vets Hall. So we've had trouble getting some responsiveness from some contractors to do some of the work for our kitchen remodel. And so there's actually a contractor that's doing the work for the fire department remodel through the 501c3 that's hired them. We got in touch with that contractor, and he is going to give us a quote for what needs to be done in our kitchen to bring it up to desirable standards for those that actually want to rent the Vets Hall. Right now, it's in pretty bad shape. And so we're going to get a quote on that. We still have monies left over from the budget adjustment and some of the monies from the tourism board. I will need to close that gap. And in speaking with the Cambria Community Council, they believe that there's some funding to support that. So I'll be getting an application into the Cambria Community Council to close some of the funding gap on the kitchen. David is working with Mr. Brian Morgan on the FFRP of the relocation of their greenhouse materials from the F&R yard that was disassembled years ago with the rainstorms. The restrooms have been graffitied a bit more than usual, and it's taking a toll on the paint inside. So they're looking at potentially repainting some of those areas and putting in new partitions. And with that, I'm opening any questions if I'm able to answer.
Thank you very much, General Manager McElhaney, for filling in for Mr. Aguirre. Yes, Vice President Dean.
Thank you, President Farmer. The last time I was out on the East Ranch, I noticed the dog park had some huge piles of wood chips within the dog park area. Have they been spread, or who's responsible for spreading those?
That's our team, I believe, or it could be a combination of the volunteers. I'm not exactly sure, but I know Mr. Geary is getting ready to move some of those if he hasn't already.
Thank you.
I heard you mention that his crew is they're doing work on the West Ranch, and it's going to be finished tomorrow. So I am assuming that that's where Mr. Geary and his crew are right now.
That's a safe assumption. Yes.
Yeah. And I've probably made this comment in the past, but David Aguirre, and I make the comment about the great staff we had, but Mr. Aguirre, how hard he works, what an inspiration he is to his crew, and often his crew members move on because he trains them so well. I'm glad that I just wish we could get him a crew that sticks around a while, and he has 3 staff that he can depend on for at least 6 months to make his job a little bit easier. So we can only hope for that. Okay. Ms. Fritz, you have the finance manager. I'm sorry. I didn't see your light on. Yes,
Yeah.
Director Gray.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you, General Manager McElhenney, for that report. I had a question about the kitchen remodel. I mean, that's all. And I don't know the exact, excuse me, requirements for a commercial kitchen. I know that the Jocelyn Center has one and we don't. Is this remodel intended to take us to that level, or is it not?
Unfortunately not. We just don't have the funds to do it. So we're trying to do as much as we can do within, I'm going to just ballpark it at about $100,000 budget. And I think we are short about 30,000. And so unless the Cambria Community Council gave us an extensive grant, so to speak, I don't think we can get to the commercial level. But what we are going to do is we're going to remove a lot of that cabinetry, put in some steel countertops, clean the stove, painting, window replacement. They will replace this pass-through here to make that a little more functional. We're going to put in steel grease traps versus the plastic ones that'll help with some of the odor control. But yeah.
So as I understand it, it's a kitchen where people can, if they can bring food to be warmed up. You can't actually do cooking from, or can you?
Well,
if people are renting the hall, say
they can do cooking. We do have a really nice range in there, so it can be done.
I guess what is the limitation then if it's not a commercial? Because I may be going beyond expertise here.
No, thank you, Director. Yeah. I think it could be just basically the size of the range and the capabilities. David is Mr. Gary is getting or has a warmer in there. That we're kind of rehabbing, and then the stove. I don't know the actual definitions of a commercial kitchen. Maybe Mr. Green knows, but you will be able to cook in there. I think it's the lack of desire of cooking in there because of its condition.
Yeah.
But we'll be putting new floors in as well. So I hope that answers.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have any public comment here in the room or online?
No.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Let's move on to Ms. Fritz and the finance manager's report, please.
Okay, thank you, President Farmer. This is agenda item 8C, and this is the finance manager's report. So this is all activity for the month of April. In agenda item 6A, you saw the expenditure report, which details out all of the accounts payable and all the expenditures for the month. You can see the director's pay that we paid out in the month of April, as well as all of our cash balances that are, and also last year's cash balances at the same time. I also have the detail SST expenditures in this report as well through April. So with that, any questions? I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Any board members have any questions of Ms. Fritz? Vice President Dean.
Not a question. I just want to thank you for showing on our accounts both last year's balance and this year's balance for comparison. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Fritz. So let's move on to Mr. Green and item 8D, the utilities report.
Great. Thank you, President Farmer. With wastewater, we're still completing the last 2 major components of the SST. One of them was that south digester and tanks that we're rehabbing. We've got it metal completed. Some of the holes that were needed patching or replacing or were in structural integrity for coating have been installed, inspected. We have the final coatings on that south digester tank. We've completed a lot of the electrical upgrades where we've actually pulled new heavier component wire to the new MCC panels that are installed and that go out to the equipment. Additionally, at the wastewater plant, we had an arborist come out and perform an evaluation on the south side of the plant right there. We have numerous trees and a couple different species right there. Some of them are dead or dying. And so we took a little inventory of those. We'll be taking some of those dead or dying ones down. The pine cones are dropping. They're ending up in our finishing ponds, which then go to a effluent pump, which then gets taken out of service when it takes on a pine cone and creates tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage. So we'll be looking at removing some of those dead and dying that are approved by the arborist. We will also have a replanting. It's a 4-to-1 ratio for any diameter tree that's over 6 inches diameter or larger. So we'll be working on that mitigation for that in the future here. And we'll probably be looking at the removal of those trees sometime in September. So we'll look forward to bringing you an update on that as well. We're also been working on the treatment process here as the weather changes and we get a little bit more production and more flows. Wastewater still kind of adjust to the new plant and the new treatment process is in there. And there's a lot more autonomy with this. So in automatic mode, it wasn't producing the effluent that we'd like to. And so we've just had to take that back to hand mode and then work on our treatment processes there. Also, collections for wastewater jetted and cambered over a 1/4 mile of sewer line in the community. For water, they were working on the Santa Rosa well for dry season preparation. We know we just started May. May through October is our dry season for Santa Rosa well 4 run. So look to seeing a little bit more Santa Rosa water in our community mix here of our domestic water in our system. Multiple leak repairs. We did an air vac replacement, replaced a service line saddle, and just some of the usual distribution-oriented stuff for the water department there. We did submit our electronic annual report several months ago that has been reviewed by the Division of Drinking Water and approved. So another big, not quite the extent of a UWMP report, but still another 50-page report that takes a lot of our data, financials, consumption, diversion, leaks, all these huge metrics that go to the state of California's database. And then they kind of look at that as a whole. So that all becomes data, which the state looks at water purveyors and kind of evaluates them as far as that. Projects. We've had a little delay on the Stewart Street tanks when we had that very fast, very rapid removal of that the second tank that's being replacement, which is actually tank 1. When that was removed, we were unable to do any geotechnical testing, obviously underneath the tank. So when that was removed, we found that about 1/3 of that was not in bedrock as initially sampled during our borings and our evaluation. So we've had to go back to our geotechnical firms and consultants and then work with our general contractor and come up with a mitigation. Today, we've just got the request for information or the change order at our desk. So we'll look forward to processing that amendment to that contract and getting work started back out there on that second tank and excavation and foundation movement there next week or so. The Santa Rosa Stream Bank rehabilitation project. Field exploration has begun. We've had Ye and Associates who are subcontracted through Cannon go out and locate areas for borings, which again, we'll do some geotechnical evaluation on there, see what kind of remediation we need to do to strengthen up that retreat that we're having on that stream bank. So that took place on Monday. The actual borings will take place this month, the 19th coming up on Tuesday, same day that we do the RFP bid. And Cannon's currently working there about 30. They want to get a 35% rendering that we can kind of take and get permitting on basically. So they're about at 25-30% now. So they're working behind the scenes on those civil drawing and plans. And with that, that's all I really have to share. Besides, we did have a great time and learned a lot at the CRWA Expo. We actually came with, if any of you guys were here a little bit earlier, you would have saw a Granite Incorporated truck. They've come up with a new composition they've been working on for several years. It's actually being looked at by the Inland Empire, Riverside County, and San Luis Obispo County for a county spec for road replacement. So what we currently do for leaks is we excavate. We replace with cold mix temporarily, and then we contract out to contractor like Mission Paving or so forth to come back in and do permanent repairs to the pavement surface as per our encroachment permit with the county. If this new mix is approved, we would be able to go in and put that in one time like we would our coal mix, and it would be permitted and approved for permanent replacement, which would save us anywhere from $35,000 to $70,000 annually on road repair. So this is why you go to those kind of trainings and those expos to kind of see the latest and greatest. And I mean, the last time we came up with Astera. We solved 2.2 acre feet a year of leak loss and unaccounted for water loss. And this time I think we've got a good kind of budget cutter with some permanent materials to replace on site when we do these excavations. So that's really all I have to add. So any questions, I'm here. Thank you.
Any directors have any questions for Mr. Green? Okay, well, since you just brought up, you just mentioned road repair about 30 seconds ago. I have in my notes here, and then I wrote down a page number, which is probably incorrect. So Santa Rosa well number 4. So I've written down road and sewer, a request for a proposal to improve that road, which I believe is at the high school, right? So you're moving forward with that.
Yes, so we've coordinated with Coast Union. This actual construction of this, the installation will take place once school's out this June here. I think they're out the first week in June. That's why we flew the RFP several weeks ago. We had 4 or 5 contractors out to bid on the process. Again, this has to go to someone who is certified with HDPE pipe welding and not just underground excavation. But yeah, the original installation of this sewer force main was just 18 inches underground, where the civil plans called for 4 feet. So that's where we'll be removing that current force main and under excavating another 3 feet and then reinstalling that sewer force main in, so we can have proper compaction for that class 2 base road that we'll put on there, that our chemical trucks will drive out there once or twice a month to deliver chemicals to. And then the second phase of this project will be the fencing around that access road, for lack of a better term, once that's completed. So yeah, that will be going on here. We'll get we have the bids due tomorrow at 1:30. So we'll see what the bids come in at. And then we look for to bring that to the board here in June, and then we'll break ground on that project sometime mid-June.
Well, thank you, Mr. Green. So let me just follow up in looking here at page 985 on what you just said with regard to the trucks delivering the chemicals twice a month. So talk about the chemical feed system. It says here was further upgraded. So let me just ask you, because you explained here how it was upgraded with the new pump and so forth. What chemicals need to be taken out to that particular location with regard to Santa Rosa Creek? What chemicals need to be taken out there to provide for, let's say, the safety and well-being of those that ultimately consume that water?
Awesome. Great question. So it's a T3 plant. So you have to have coagulation, filtration, and disinfection. The coagulant that we use out there is ferric. So it's just an iron, it's an aqueous iron that helps get those other constituents, which we have in the groundwater, which are magnesium, not magnesium, iron and manganese, sorry, iron and manganese. So that's a coagulant for that. So it grabs those together and that comes out in the filter, which we backwash, and that then travels through the sewer line and back to our sewer plant for treatment. So the chemicals for water treatment we have is that ferric and then just chlorine bleach just for disinfection. So just those 2 chemicals. But the chemical trucks that come from Brentag could have caustic soda on there or really highly volatile acids. And that's why we need to have such a structured road out there, because that's the last thing we want is during a school day for a chemical truck, and not just with our disinfection chemicals or our coagulation chemicals, but something more harsh like aqueous ammonia or that caustic soda have spilled and end up on the field out there, or, affect any student activity or environments out there. So that's again why we're making such a heavy duty road.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I didn't necessarily understand everything that you said, but I really appreciate you having the knowledge to convey to us. So thank you so much. All right. Looks like we're moving on to item 9. Oh, excuse me. Yes. Do we have any public comment, Ms. Dotson?
No.
All right. Thank you. By the way, it's almost 1:30. Have any of the members of the community out there on Zoom, are they still here? Anybody still there?
Yes, 5 people.
Cool. Well, thank you those. Thanks to you 5. All right. So board member committee and liaison reports. Any comments in that area from board members? Staff? Members of the community? Yes, Vice President Dean.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that R&I is going to have a special meeting on Monday at 2:00 to review the annual water supply and demand assessment.
All right. So that's a special meeting, and this Monday at 2, right here at the Vets Hall.
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that part. All right. Well, thank you for informing us on that. Any future agenda items, Ms. Dotson?
Yes, we will be holding 2 meetings next month. The regular meeting will be held on June 11th, and we have consideration of approval of extending the agreement for consultant services with Moss Levy and Hartsum for auditing and performance of the district's fiscal year 25-26 audit. Consideration of approval of the district's 25-26 annual water supply demand assessment report. Consideration of adoption of resolution approving the updated management and confidential employees group payment and compensation plan. Consideration of adoption of a resolution amending the CCSD salary schedule. A public hearing and discussion regarding the status of district job vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts in accordance with Assembly Bill 2561. A public hearing to discuss and consider adoption of a resolution approving the CCSD preliminary budget for fiscal year 26-27 and a resolution establishing the fiscal year 26-27 appropriations limit. A public hearing to discuss and consider adoption of a resolution confirming the itemized reports of collect delinquent solid waste collection and disposal charges on the county tax rolls. A public hearing to discuss and consider adoption of a resolution confirming the 2025 Fire Hazard Fuel Reduction Program itemized cost report of the CCSD. A public hearing to discuss and consider adoption of a resolution approving a fire suppression benefit assessment consumer price index adjustment at the rate of 2.8% for fiscal year 26-27. And we'll be holding a special board meeting on Thursday, June 25th at 10 a.m. for a discussion and consideration of approval of a construction contract with a vendor for the Cambria Skate Park project and authorize the general manager to execute the agreement.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Dotson. Yes, General Manager McElhaney.
Vice President Dean, we had discussed about an ad hoc for FFRP.
Yes, FFRP has requested that the ad hoc committee continue with a new assignment, and that is to work together with FFRP on budgeting for the ranch management plan.
So it was going to be an agenda item, I think, in June. So it's going to be held off maybe another month or so. Is that what we're saying? No.
Thank you, President Farmer. In June, we'll hoping to have concurrence from the FFRP. We've already gotten current concurrence from the State Coastal Conservancy. And so we believe that we'll be able to adopt that plan in June. However, we want the ad hoc to continue to work with FFRP, but its scope will be changed a bit.
All right. Well, I think I misunderstood then. Well, thank you very much. And for those that might be tuning in and for some reason don't know what FFRP is, that's the Friends of the Fiscalini Ranch Preserve. So they're involved with the ranch. I think that's the best way I could describe it. All right. So, yes.
Yeah.
Director Gray.
Yeah. Thank you, President Farmer. Yeah. This item I want to bring up, it kind of, I was thinking of talking about it in the report of the committee meeting, but it's actually sort of beyond that. If you read the report on our April 16th meeting of the Fire Committee, notice the main theme kind of just came out in all the items that we have a revenue challenge in fire protection, and a lot of aspects of it. The capital side, the recruitment and retention side, and whether we maintain ALS, advanced life support status, things like that. And I wanted to raise the a proposal that we have an ad hoc appointed of 2 board members to go over both the needs, priorities, and the resources to decide what would be the most reasonable, effective, and achievable proposal for, say, a revenue raising measure like a tax. We had a good presentation on the types of partial taxes that are now available in under state law, and we'll probably have some more, consulting on that, some more input. But the big issue that came up to me is that we don't have any time this year for anything in November, by this point. And this is a good time to start planning to get a very solid and persuasive package to bring before the public in 2028, essentially. And I think we can start planning it now. So I was thinking of combining the resources of fire and finance, essentially, to look over the options. With an ad hoc committee, obviously, being the lead on that.
Well, thank you very much, Director Gray. I just want to make one further comment. Mr. Green, as is often the case, but for some reason, especially today, your utilities report is so unbelievably thorough and descriptive of what your department does, and the photos always add to it. And I don't know what other special districts or city councils or anything have reports such as this, but I just wanted to thank you for that. And I know folks often say, you guys are up there, you're just schmoozing one another. But once again, I want to thank General Manager McElhaney for always being prompt and being able to answer whatever concerns that we as board members have, or whatever items come up that need clarification or elaboration. So I just felt like saying that because sometimes, we work and don't necessarily get acknowledged for it. So there we are. And with that, it's 1:37 on Thursday afternoon, May 14th, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.